All right, back on Sports Bit, Pauly and Teddy, Tuesday, July 19th. Big game breakdown, Thor against Arrieta. How about that pitching matchup? Mets against the Cubs, and a good series from Fenway, the Giants and the Red Sox. We continue our AFC East preview, Miami Dolphins today, and play of the day, best bet time. Bad beats, bad bets. Oh my God, we got 3 bad bets to discuss. Bullpen meltdowns. What the hell happened? Let's start with the Phillies. 2-0 Phillies, top of the ninth. Marlins get 2 in the ninth and win it in extra innings, Teddy.
Yeah, it was like 3 games, and all 3 of them, if you mentioned a 3-team parlay, let's just start with the first one, all right? Philadelphia, right side, the whole way. Yep. I mean, tons of Phillies money last night. Miami was as high as minus 205. They got bet down to minus 180. The Phillies are up 2-0 in the ninth, and as you mentioned, lose 3-2 in 11. The closer, Janmar Gomez, gave up more hits, 3 in 1 inning, than Aaron Nola did, the starter, 2 hits in 7 innings. But, you know, I mean, this kind of thing happens to Philadelphia, unfortunately, on a regular basis. But, man, when you got a, plus 180 ticket or plus 170 ticket in your pocket, you're leading wire to wire.
Yeah.
Brutal when you don't cash those.
Yeah, Fernandez was awesome. 14 strikeouts in 6 1/3, and a huge win for the Marlins, who now move ahead of the Mets. And here's another bad one. White Sox up 3-0 in the bottom of the ninth. Sale allowed 1 hit. They take him out. Seattle gets 4 in the ninth to beat the White Sox.
Oh, just brutal. I mean, Seattle gave up 1 hit. He faced 28 batters, and he gave up 1 hit and 0 runs. And then David Robertson comes on in the ninth and faces 6 batters, gives up 4 runs and 3 hits, and it wasn't pretty at all. If you had the White Sox, things have gone very, very bad for Chicago. That team has turned south in a hurry over the last couple of weeks.
Indians and the under also gone. 2-0, bottom of the 8th. Kluber's cruising. Calf injury, they take him out. Bullpen gives up a 7th spot.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, there's a heat wave going on all through the U.S. right now, or most of the U.S., and it was certainly the case in Cleveland last night. Heat index in the upper 90s. Kluber's dominant, absolutely dominant through the first 7 innings of that ballgame. He comes out for the 8th. Oh, I got a cramp in my calf. Francona comes out and says, no, you can't throw a pitch. We'll bring the bullpen in. Well, Brian Shaw came in, and then Jeff Manship came in, and the next thing you know, the Royals had 7 runs, and that 2-0 Indians lead was history. Brutal beat for Cleveland or the under or both. Smart money, not a good result.
Yep, bad loss for the Indians. Can't be blowing games like that as we get into the second half. A bad bet. This never had a chance. Twins, Tigers over. 1-0, 6 combined hits.
And remember, this game took a ton of over money. It was bet from 10 under to 10.5. 1-0 final. Upton home run. The only run for the game. And again, it's really hard to get over 10.5 when the 2 teams combine for 6 hits and 5 walks.
Right.
With 11 base runners to get over 10.5. It could happen. We saw a game stay under this year with 8 solo home runs, and it stayed under 8.5. So it could happen. 11 base runners could get a game over 10.5, but not going to happen very often. That Tigers bullpen continues to overachieve.
Yeah, how about Cardinals and the over?
Well, I mean, nobody bet the Padres. Nobody bet the under. Everybody bet St. Louis. St. Louis would bet minus 175 up to minus $2. A total from 8.5 as high as 9.5. And nobody who bet the Padres to the under was absolutely right. The Padres' winning streak came to an end at 3, and Frederick and the bullpen behind him got blown up. Cardinals go over the total by themselves.
2 things to mention in the Yankees win against the Orioles 2-1. Chapman hit 105 in the 9th inning. Again, the Yankees 18-1 when Betances, Miller, and Chapman all pitch in the same game. And A-Rod hit a home run. He's only 4 away from 700. I wonder what kind of attention or maybe lack thereof that'll receive once he hits 4 more home runs. What do you think?
I mean, A-Rod, when it comes to nationally, everyone hates him. And the guy is not going to salvage his reputation. I don't think it's going to be salvaged in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. He's going to be a bad guy forevermore. Kind of like the way he was as a player. That being said, he's about to hit 700 home runs. I'm sure he's got some fans, and I'm certain that baseball in some way will promote it. The Yankees will try to promote it to sell some tickets, but in terms of crowd support, in terms of viewing A-Rod as one of the legends of the game, I don't know if that's going to happen. No. Not in circa 2016.
No. How about Chapman? Someone's got to make a move for this guy. Yankees going to trade him.
Yeah, I mean, there was a talk that there was real debate within the Yankees front office as to whether they should be buyers or sellers at the deadline. If they keep the bullpen together, Yankees are going to keep cashing some under tickets and probably keep winning some games. If they break it up and start building for the future, it might be a better long-term move. I'm not looking at the Yankees as a World Series contender this year, so maybe it makes sense to do that. But in the short term, they might be a pretty bad team because you look at all the Yankees' success this season has been based on the back of that bullpen.
Yeah. One quick story here before we get to big game breakdown. A federal judge sentenced the former scouting director of the Cardinals to nearly 4 years in prison yesterday for hacking the Astros player database. 4 years. And I love this. It was a rogue individual. If he woke up one day and decided, I'm going to do this, I got waterfront property to sell you.
Hey, well, it's not just 4 years in prison, or 46 months to be specific. He's also got to pay $279,038 in restitution.
Yeah.
Of course, he faced up to 5 years in prison on each count, and he pled guilty to 5 counts. He could have been looking at 25 years as the rogue employee. Yeah, okay. But man, that seems harsh. But of course, you know how the U.S. criminal justice system is. It's pretty random. And this falls under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which basically takes even someone who's never been convicted of a crime before and gives them a 5-year minimum sentence if they're convicted. When you think about that compared to, the Stanford University swimmer, Brock Turner, who got that 6-month sentence for sexually assaulting an unconscious woman.
Yep.
And then we say that was 6 months and this is 46 months? Well, welcome to the U.S. criminal justice system.
Ridiculous. Bravo there, Teddy. Up next, big game breakdown. Thor against Arrieta. Can the Cubs make it 2 in a row over the Mets? On SportsBit, Betting Insight today.
Hey everyone, tune into today's MLB Odds Couple show, July 19th. I have an official no-brainer pick. Tune into the show to see if Mike Brenner can figure out what it is. I think he can, and I have a feeling he's going to be on it. Tune into the show to find out. Should be entertaining and hopefully pretty profitable, right, Mike Brenner?
Hell, Teddy and Pauly might be on that game as well. Tune in, check us out.
Big game breakdown, as always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Mets and the Cubs. Cubs $1.50, no overnight totals from Wrigley. The Mets were 8-0, plus 34 runs going into Monday, the last 8 games against the Cubbies. Did the Cubs get the monkey off the back? Great job by Lester, our play of the day loser. He pitched well. Rizzo hit a home run. This is Arrieta's, and I talked about this, that Madden should do it. This is Arrieta's first start since July 8th, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, he looked really worn down before the break, let's be honest. Now, giving Jake Arrieta 10 days off at this stage of the season, I think is brilliant. I think Madden made the right call. Because look at what he did the last 4 starts. 1-3, only lasted 21 innings in that span, an ERA over 6, 12 walks, and he gave up 4 home runs in 4 starts after giving up only 3 in 93 innings prior to those last 4 starts. So, the walks, which were at 3 per 9 innings in the first 14 starts of the season, been over 5 in the last 4 outings. I mean, it's just been problematic. And, of course, the walks per 9 innings last year, less than 2. This year it's up to now 3.4. So you can say that's partly control. It's partly batters not chasing because the swinging percentage, it's down. 34% down to under 30%. That's the number of time hitters swing at pitches outside the strike zone. So they're not chasing Arrieta the way they were. And, of course, the guy's only reached the 7th inning once since May. And that came against Atlanta, who is ranked dead last in the majors in OPS. It's worth noting Arrieta did get roughed up. 4 runs, 8 hits over 5.1 innings of work in losing to the Mets in his lone previous appearance in this season. He was forced out to 20.2 pitches per inning. That's his 2nd highest number of the season.
And cause for concern here with Syndergaard. Also his first start since July 8th. He left after only 4 2/3 against the Nationals with arm fatigue. It stopped when the last 2 fastballs were clocked at 93 and 91. Here's this quote from Terry Collins. He just said his arm went dead, got tired on him, and stuff went away. He said, "I've lost it," end quote. Jesus, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, Syndergaard's a real question mark right now. Here's his quote. "I think it's just that time of the year. My first full season in the big leagues. I've thrown a lot of pitches, thrown a lot of innings so far. I think it just boils down to a little bit of fatigue. There's no pain. There's no discomfort in my elbow regarding the bone spur. It felt like I could still go out there and pitch through that. It all just really boils down to a little shoulder fatigue. And again, it's not like a 91-mile-an-hour fastball is a nightmare for Syndergaard, but we're talking a guy who averages as fast a fastball as any starting pitcher in baseball. So when he's throwing 91 mph heaters, yeah, you got to be concerned. When you have bone spurs in your elbow, yeah, you got to be concerned. And I'm not saying that Syndergaard is a bet against Hurler right now. I'm just saying he's not someone I trust. He is a watch-and-see type of pitcher. And, of course, that's somewhat reflected in this price range. Although Arrieta, even with this mini slump, is still attracting a lot of betting market support.
Well, I don't trust him either right now, though he's been going. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Game number 2, Giants and the Red Sox. PV against Porcello. Red Sox $1.60, 10.5 the total. There hasn't been a more lethal combination this season than Porcello starting in Fenway Park for the Red Sox. 8-0 at home.
No, 9-0. The Red Sox are 9-0 at home.
He's 8-0.
Right. They're plus 42 runs in those 9 starts, and 8 of the wins have cash run line tickets. They've come by 2 runs or more. Porcello himself is 8-0 with a 3.32 in Fenway, and only 7 walks in 57 innings of work. He's been challenging hitters, not nibbling the corners. And, we're talking about a guy who's 11-2 with a 3.66 ERA overall. He's got career low walks, only 1.7 per 9 innings. Right now, Rick Porcello was always a promise guy, never lived up to it in Detroit. We're starting to see signs of that now in Boston.
And the Giants were on a 40-15 run going into the break. They never had the lead in San Diego. They were 9-0 on the season against the Padres. They got swept in Petco, and the Padres beat Mad Bum and Cueto and roughed them up too and got the bats going, as Kemp had a good series as well. So now this could be a danger zone for Peavy, who's done a nice job at home in San Francisco, but on the road and other venues, it's been a real struggle.
Yeah, I mean the Giants never even had a lead in San Diego the first weekend after the All-Star break. I mean, they were chalking every game. They were big chalk, as you mentioned, with their 2 aces on the hill, and they never led in any of those ball games. So their last lead came before the break. Now you talk about Jake Peavy, and boy, this is a pretty sharp split. Look at these numbers right here. At home, solid. On the road, ugly. I mean, it's just that simple. Of course, his 35.9 ground ball percentage, second lowest of his career. They're getting the balls in the air against Peavy. That's never a good sign when you look at the advanced metric numbers. He's surviving because he's got a really low home run rate on all those fly balls. Only 7.5% of his fly balls have gone over the fence. That's the second best number of his career. And of course, a lot of that, Pauly, has to do with the West Coast ballparks. Peavy pitches in a bunch of pitchers' parks. Fenway Park is not necessarily such a pitcher's park, and I'm not sure that his fly ball rate is going to work quite as well on the East Coast as it's worked on the West Coast so far this season.
Yeah, 2 good games tonight. Looking forward to that. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Up next, we preview the Miami Dolphins and the play of the day on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Always on the go? Bet365 has one of the top mobile platforms in today's market. Sign up today and don't let your busy life keep you out of the game.
All right, play of the day coming up. AFC East, we continue with the Miami Dolphins in the deep dive. Win total, 7. Last year, 6-10 straight up, 5-11 ATS, 7-9 to the over-under. Mainstream stats, 26th in offense. Come on, 25th in defense, 18th in turnovers, tied for 20th in yards per play. No playoffs since the 2008 season. No playoff wins since 2000. They haven't been able to find a quarterback since Marino. And Fiedler was the QB in the playoff win in 2000. Lamar Smith ran for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in overtime over the Colts. You got to be kidding me. Like the Bills yesterday on the show, and Miami. This is the 2 organizations that haven't done anything in a long time.
Yeah, and this is a team that made a bunch of win-now free agent moves in both 2014 and 2015. So last year's season wasn't just a disaster. It was a disaster with long-term salary cap implications. And then they spent this offseason taking on more bad contracts to move up repeatedly in the draft despite their bad history in the draft. So, and then we got issues with the coaching staff. Let's start right off the top. You have a new head coach in Adam Gase. He coached a career year out of Jay Cutler last year. He's the youngest coach in the NFL. He's going to call the plays just like he did in Chicago and Denver the last few years. But first year, first time coach, the youngest coach in the league. You have Clyde Christian as the offensive coordinator. He was the Colts quarterback coach over the last 14 years. First year, first time offensive coordinator. And let's not forget that he's been coaching Manning or Luck. And the 1 year that the Colts didn't have Manning or Luck, back in 2011 when Manning got hurt, they went 2-14. So, I've got my question marks about Miami's coaching staff. And boy, this roster, they got star power. They don't have a lot of quality depth.
Certainly put up or shut up time for Tannehill. He went into my pocket a couple times last year. He was horrible. They gave last year, before the season, they gave him a 6-year, $96 million extension. And he was 29th in QBR. He's 29-35 in four seasons as a starter. No winning seasons. You're looking at the backup quarterback situation. That doesn't look good either. He's between Manning and Gabbert with his QBR last year. His completion percentage dropped from 66.4 to 61.9 last year. Oh, they're throwing money away with this guy.
Yeah, but again, if you have no quarterback, you're in a worse situation than if you have a bad quarterback, essentially. And the Dolphins with Tannehill, and again, number 29 in QBR last year. That's telling you exactly where he was at. But nothing went right for Miami last year. Their offensive line stunk. Their receiving core didn't make plays, et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't all Tannehill's fault. That being said, you got to pay quarterbacks. So you look at the money that Brock Osweiler's getting. That's the same kind of money Tannehill's getting. To me, it sounds crazy when you start throwing out these figures, but Miami doesn't have him. They don't have anyone. And I think it's right to give him one more shot to try to prove that he's a solid QB. Because so far, he showed promise, but last year wasn't good. There's potential for Tannehill to be solid or better. And we just didn't see it in 2015.
We agree with the decision not to pay Lamar Miller. He went to Houston. They got Drake. Kenyon Drake will be battling it out at that running back position. They also signed Arian Foster yesterday, gave him a 1-year deal, $1.5 million, loaded with incentives. Here's Foster since 2010. Torn meniscus, multiple hamstring injuries, knee injury, back injury, major groin injury, tore his Achilles, and during that time, he averaged 20 carries a game, led the NFL. I don't think he has anything left, Teddy.
No, and look, Arian Foster's not a difference maker for Miami. I would think that Jay Ajayi is going to be the running back for the Dolphins when the season starts. But I'm sure there'll be do some mixing and matching. But you talked about the rookie Kenyon Drake. They're really counting on Leonte Carew, the third rounder out of Rutgers at wide receiver, because he's the only guy they have across from Jarvis Landry right now. This team is not loaded with skill position talent.
What do you think of the defense?
Well, I got to talk about the offensive line, though.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, when we bring up the fact that they don't have a ton of skill position talent, we don't like the quarterback necessarily. Boy, this offensive line looks good. You have two true Pro Bowl returnees, and Mike Pouncey at center and Braylon Albert at left tackle. Juwan James at right tackle wasn't far behind him. And, of course, they drafted Laramie Tunsil, who kind of fell into their lap after that gas mask bong Twitter disaster on draft day. Now, no quarterback in the NFL has taken more sacks than Tannehill's 184 sacks over the last 4 years. But I'll tell you what, their offensive line depth as good as any position on the roster. It is a good-looking OL that should help both the quarterback and the running game.
They lost Vernon, who went to the Giants. They gave Sue all that money. That contract looks bad. Then they did it again with Mario Williams.
Yeah, live and learn. No, it's Miami. We don't learn. All right, one thing, I was talking about the coaching staff, and I went through the offensive coordinator as a first-year, first-time OC. Same story with the defense. Vance Joseph, first-year, first-time defensive coordinator. He was the Bengals defensive backs coach. Well, too bad Miami doesn't have defensive backs like Cincinnati did, I'll tell you what. Defensively, you talk about Mario Williams, who's a guy who's supposed to bring sacks. I'm not sure that that's going to happen on a regular basis. They're counting on Cameron Wake to bring sacks. He's 34, coming off an injury-plagued season. They gave him a fully guaranteed extension. I'm not sure he's got anything left in the tank. You talked about Vernon going to the Giants. He was their best defensive lineman last year. And now they're taking on, again, the bad contracts, the Kiko Alonso, the Byron Maxwell, 2 busts in Philadelphia. They're supposed to lead their very, very suspect back 7.
What do you think of the schedule?
Well, and this is the kicker on Miami. Last year, in that disastrous season, they played a very easy schedule, bottom 5 in strength of schedule in the NFL. This year's schedule, again, it's not super brutal, but it's league average. So that's a huge jump from last year. And you look at that schedule right from the start, all right? They open up, they're at Seattle, at New England, at Cincinnati, all in the first 4 weeks of the season. That's a tough start, all right? You can pencil in LLL for those 3 games. Then they don't leave home after that Cincinnati game on September 29th until mid-November. They get a 4-game NFL homestand. That never happens, with a bye in between, and then 5 of the next 7 on the highway before that season ender, Week 17 versus the Patriots. So I got to talk about this. When you talk about the season win total, it's worth noting the Patriots have lost in Week 17 each of the last 2 years, resting starters, including at that awful Dolphins team last year, Week 17. The Dolphins won 20-10. Now, the strength of schedule is going to count this game versus New England at full strength, but I'm not convinced the Pats are going to be at full strength for that ballgame. Just something to note if you're looking to bet Miami under the win total.
You like it under? You lean under?
Yeah, let's be real. It's a bad organization, subpar facilities, bottom-tier stadium, in the midst of another reset with another rookie head coach. You just can't bet teams like Miami over 7 wins and expect to make money. First lean has to be towards the under.
All right, tomorrow, America's team, the New England Patriots. That's coming up. All right, money time, play of the day. Back to the Giants and the Red Sox. What are we doing, Teddy?
Well, yeah, and we got a Twitter question yesterday. I just want to answer it real quick. He was asking about what is the number that we throw out in front of the teams. That's called the game number or the betting number. That's a number that you use to bet on whatever team you want to support at the window here in Las Vegas. You don't go to the window and say, "Give me $500 on the Red Sox." You say, "Hey, give me a nickel on number 976," which is exactly what we're going to do right here. Let's go with the Boston Red Sox on the run line, plus 120. That's game number 976. I'm not expecting a good result from Jake Peavy in this one. And the Giants, after being red hot before the break, well, I'm not convinced they're coming out of the break with that same level of success. Take Boston, expecting to win by 2 runs or more. Red Sox, plus 120 on the run line. That's our play of the day.
All right.